Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Lamtman. I am Joseph Lamtman. I hope you guys are having a great week. Happy Tuesday. Excited for today's show. Got my man Mike Antonace is going to join the Real today. Got a lot to talk about with Mike. We got some. We're going to talk some Emoni Bates with the Cavs, his summer league debut. We're going to talk some Browns training camp preview. We're only a couple weeks out from training camp. I don't know the exact date, but we're not too far away. I think we're like less than 2 weeks. So that's around the corner. I'm looking forward to talking about that with Mike. But we're going to start off today's show talking about Mike's anxiety update. A lot of you guys don't know. I'm not going to say too much. Let Mike speak for himself. But the last about 2-3 months, Mike was going through some pretty, good anxiety battles. Obviously, everybody knows Mike and I's relationship. We talk all the time. So there's a lot of days we would talk together. And I was going through some things as well. I've shared since I've come back the last couple of weeks about I was on the 16-week program, the Inner Circle program. And so Mike and I helped out each other a lot during those process the last 2-3 months, and maybe about since April. And so Mike's doing good now, and so looking forward to bringing on Mike to talk about it. But before we talk, I'm going to share this clip real quick to kind of set the tone for our conversation today. From my man Dennis, the anxiety guy. It's a quick clip. It's actually a short on YouTube. And so, I'm going to play this clip real quick, and we'll bring Mike up.
You can't heal health anxiety, or any kind of anxiety for that matter, through the same eye that brought you into that anxious state in the first place. You start to feel like your changes that you're making in your life are in line with how the old I would do things. When you get that sense, you're just going to be running on a hamster wheel, right? It's this idea of seeing the process of healing from a different perspective. A perspective that you are just starting to get to know better, my friends, okay? So you are literally becoming somebody different, someone who views people, life, death, everything differently.
And so, I liked how he set the tone there. He talked about how when you start to heal anxiety, you start to see everything differently. And I've noticed that in my journey, especially the last month since I finished the program. You just start to see things differently. You start to, for me, it was since about mid-April. Once I figured out my shift, and I found that shift, and I figured out what really caused my anxiety all these years, and I was able to really dig deep and connect a lot of dots in the program. Things started to make sense, but I also started to see things differently, and I started to, like you said there, you just perceive things differently, but you just act differently. You act more in line with who you want to be, which is your true self. You no longer act in line with the anxiety and the fear. You no longer allow it to control you. You no longer feed into it. And so I'm excited to bring Mike up here because Mike has also gone through the same thing recently. And I'll let him explain it, where Mike started to have seen it in Mike as well. In the last couple months, he started doing better, month and a half, and he started to see the shift in him as well. And he's starting to get back doing things he likes to do and just living life. And so, without further ado, I'm bringing the man himself up here, Mike.
Hey,
welcome back to the Real, along with what's your dog's name here, Mike?
This is Molly.
All right, we got Molly joining as well.
Yeah, she's a daddy's girl, and that's the other dog you hear in the background.
All right, so Mike's got the dog pound going on over there at his house. Give Mike a second here.
Watson.
But thanks for joining the Real. Welcome back to the Real, Mike. It's good to see you. It's been a little bit.
Good to see you too. Go
I
figure.
guess
He
we'll
starts barking as soon as we start, right?
yeah, yeah, don't do
That's
that, he
that's
said.
my life.
Yeah. But you saw the video I played there. I gave a little setup for you. I guess kind of I'll let you go from here. Kind of just a little update of what you've been going through and where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the past couple months I had a good little bout with anxiety. It was just kind of like getting overwhelmed over everything, like every little thing. The smallest like kind of straw would break this camel's back, for lack of a better term. Um, but through just talking it out, and biggest thing was, when you need help, seek help, and started going to therapy. Went pretty regularly. Um, I've since tapered down to a couple times a week, um, and sought medication, which is very important to do you know when it's needed. And for a long time, I was pretty against the fact of medication. I don't even like taking Tylenol because we're anxious people, right? So you're always worried
Yeah.
about the side effects. Oh
Right.
man, I hope this doesn't make me
Mhm.
grow a third arm or something. But yeah, so got got the medication I need, and the biggest thing with that too for people, it's never a crutch, or and it doesn't have to be something that you see outlook wise negatively.
Mhm.
Sometimes people just need that.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing with that, and advice I could give too, is because a lot of those medications will, I'm sure as increase your symptoms the first couple of weeks. But sticking with it and sticking with my support structure, talking with my friends, my loved ones,
Mhm.
therapy, and um, taking the medication is really just everything all together, kind of all at once. I turned around all the negative things and negative thought processes to good thought processes.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a
almost like
mixture
you've
of
been able to. The medication can be really good. Like I take a lot of like all natural stuff, like CBD and
mhm,
stuff. I think a lot of it can help. It just depends where you are. It depends who you are, where you are. And I think when you were definitely in a spot where it was necessary, and I've been there. When I start off, back when I was 15, I needed medication at the time, and so it's different for everybody. But yeah, definitely. But you also, I think you did the right thing, though. I think what a lot of people miss is it's like you said there. It'd be really helpful as a. It's almost like a It's just it's an aid, whatever. It just help you get going. It's like if you're a car stuck in snow and the tire tread can't get, the tires can't catch tread, if I could spit that out correctly. But so that's kind of what the medicine helped you with. And so, but you also did some good therapy as well. I know you were really diving deep into a lot of things in your life, and you were able to kind of go deep, put things together. But then when you do that too, along with
right,
what you're doing now, is you're able to start to recondition yourself in a way. Which is,
right,
I think that's what a lot of people miss. And you understood this because I think we've talked about it for a long time, obviously, but you've seen me and, you follow the anxiety guy as well. And a lot of
mhm,
people miss, though. They just count on the medication only, or just count on a crutch, or like you said, not like a crutch, where you really said, no, I want to really help myself. And so, you kind of like allowed yourself to go deep. You allowed yourself to be vulnerable with people, but also it's not easy to go talk about a lot of things. You know what I mean? So,
right.
yeah. And but no, I mean, kind of, I guess what really helped you kind of just not just depend only on that, but also be like, hey, it'd be good if I put like an actual plan together for myself to really help myself get going.
Right. Yeah. So like even like my psychiatrist said something similar. Like the medication is going to make it manageable, but it's not going to like cure anxiety. Anxiety is a normal human emotion and healthy in some aspects. Like if you're getting chased by a bear, you should probably be anxious, right? But yeah, the thing that really just helped me was just like you said, kind of just reconditioning myself. I started because I kind of walled myself off in my house, in my literal world, um, when I was having really bad daily panic attacks. And what really helped was, a mixture of the medication and exposing myself again, going out with people that love me, hanging out with friends that, actually care, and just like going back out and showing myself not only are these people and situations good for me, but the world
Mm-hmm.
isn't that scary of a place as I thought.
Mm.
And that's
Yeah,
legit the hardest thing, because you
totally.
got to like retrain yourself, right? And I
Yeah.
know you can relate where
You
it's
just took the words
it's
right out of my
hard.
mouth. This exactly what you just said. The world's not as scary as place we think it is, and I think a lot of times that people with anxiety, like myself, for a long time, and it's still kind of what I've been working. What I'm still rebuilding myself now out of the program and stuff. It's just a lot of people with it. You're kind of afraid to be around. It's like an interaction thing as well, like you said. Like you're just
Mhm.
afraid to be around people. You're afraid to uh, be out in public amongst a lot of people. Sometimes it can feel very like nerve wracking and pressure, and just you get really tense, and you just get like, because you think everybody's judging you. You think anxiety makes you really internalize a lot of everything. You internalize everything. You think everybody's looking at you. You think everybody's judging you. You think, you know, all the wrong things. It's not accurate. None of it. Nobody really is. Hell, most people you're around, they're going through the same shit too, right? Sitting right there. And so, well, no, yeah, totally. And you took the words right out of my mouth to me. Just it's learning to. It's almost like you're showing yourself, like, hey, things were not what I thought they were,
Right.
and it was complete opposite.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, like I have actually in the last year interacted with a lot of new people more than I ever, and people I probably would have never talked to, or never would have, or just like in general, or just even people I kind of put myself out there with. You know what I mean? It's just uh, totally. I guess kind of what are some things, maybe some like habits you're doing daily now, or some practices maybe that's really helped you keep going and stay consistent?
Well, for me, a big thing that helped was getting back to work, you know,
Mm,
because at least the feeling of inadequacy that can come with anxiety and panic. And I know it's um, part of a lot of people that suffer with it clinically is like they have trouble working.
mm,
And just that alone, that forces you to get out of the house. I you know, sometimes from work I have to walk home and it's 3 miles. I'm getting exercise, getting some sunlight. You're getting out. Um, a mixture of that and just the kind of. I wish there was like a secret like code or a secret like way to um, describe it, but for like what I was dealing with, especially with panic and the OCD of not getting out, like it's one of those things where you just kind of have to do it and sometimes accept that you will be anxious in certain situations.
mm,
But when you hit that wall, when you're out and about and you're anxious, just reminding yourself that that's okay. Look where you're at and you're fine.
mm,
But and that was what my therapist and psychiatrist would relay to me. It's like, oh no, like when you go out, when you first start getting better, it's gonna be hard. There's no way to
mm,
not make it hard. There's a way to make it easier, which, if you're out and about, visualization, breathing exercises. And we've talked about those things in the past on past
mm,
shows. But the biggest thing for me was I just had to do it. I had to go out with friends. I had to go back to work. I had to put
mm,
myself in uncomfortable situations to remind myself that it is okay to be uncomfortable sometimes. It's not detrimental to be uncomfortable. Uncomfortability is part of life. And putting yourself in uncomfortable situations is actually one of the coolest parts of life, because that's how we travel. That's how we meet new friends. That's how,
mm.
we do a show, a podcast. You know,
Right.
certain things can be uncomfortable
Well,
and be very healthy, you know?
yeah, I think, yeah, it's just like it's better to. I heard the anxiety guys say this too, and I totally agree with it. It's something I've can really attest to, and you can is it's better to suffer deliberately,
Right.
like suffer suffer
That's a good way to put it.
suffer now, so you can live the rest of your life in free and peace, is a way to put it. And like you said, it's not like your therapist told you. It's not like anxiety it just goes away. No, anxiety is it's just an emotion. It's part of us. It's always gonna be part
Right.
of. We have emotions in it. That's how we're built as human beings. That's how God made us, right? But how do we respond to things going forward for us for our life? How do we perceive things? How do we react to things? do we let things control us and bog us down? You know what I mean? And once you start to really dig deep and find yourself again, and you let yourself go, a lot of these things just don't really. It's like you said in that video there, just a lot of things that most people in society that get bothered by things, they don't really bother people like when you start to overcome anxiety and panic disorder, because it's the closest thing to death you'll ever get to. Because
Right.
I mean, it's like I was where you were, locked in my house, couldn't really leave. You just when you have panic attacks every day, multiple times a day, you just feel like you're dying all day. I mean, it's just like, really. I mean, it's just you know how it is. It's just you just feel like you're constantly on edge. It's hard to sleep.
I
It's
was
hard to read.
constantly on edge, racing
Yeah,
thoughts constantly. You always say it's the closest thing to dying. I always say it's the closest thing to madness.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
like, and it's a scary, and that in and of itself was a scary thought when I was really bad. It was like, oh, am I going crazy? Like I
yeah.
have to
Yeah, you think you're going
go
crazy. Yeah, it's hard to. It's really easy to isolate everything in your life. Well, that
right,
gets anybody. You start to think you're on a foreign island, but what's really helped
right,
me though, it's like you said, like when you start putting yourself out there more, and something I've done as well. My progress, especially privately, but
Mhm.
uh,
Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's what
that
the
yeah. But I think also it's like you said something there. I didn't realize this till I found my shift in April, Mike, which was really just allowing more, like allowing, like surrendering in a way, almost
right.
just surrendering everything. And it's a lot of it's spiritual. But I think surrendering and understanding like what I'm feeling right now it's really okay. Like, because I've done a lot of new things in the last year, and there's many times when I did those new things, I would start to get anxiety. I'm not gonna lie, I would start to get anxious. I would start to
Yeah.
get it would start to um, a lot of the new things I did, it was starting to kind of I had to relearn again how to react to new things and things I've never done, things I hadn't done in a while, or things I've never done. And so,
Right.
but again, all it is just unfamiliar. That's all it is. Everything's just when you don't do things for a while or something's new, it's unfamiliar. And so, once I realized that like what I'm feeling is okay, and, like I really accepted it, and just really like it's almost like living my life feeling it,
Mhm.
keep going, and eventually it always does. Your body just starts reacting. It's like, okay, here we are again at this thing. He's fine. It won't send those signals. That's all it is. Your body looking out for you.
Right.
But
Yeah, and it's
yeah,
scientific too, like
hmm
doing these things for yourself legitimately creates new neural pathways in your brain that are positive. Like, hey, you're safe. Hey, we don't have to
right,
release tons and tons of cortisol and epinephrine right now. You're fine.
right,
um, and that goes even back to the medication thing, where like it's never a bad thing to consider. If you were in my position, the SSRIs in my case is what I'm taking is just kind of like a boost on what you're doing naturally. It just helps that process along quick and essentially.
hmm
But you still have to do your end of the work too.
right, which is most
Like
important.
I'd compare right. I'd compare the medication to like if I'm asked to dig a hole and like the hole is my anxiety, like I have to get rid of it, I have to fill the hole or what have you. The
hmm
medication is the shovel. Like
Right.
they're giving me the shovel to do it, but I still got to do it.
It's like I say, if your car's stuck in snow, you need some tread. Somebody's like pushing your car, and then eventually you get back on the road. But then you're
Right.
driving again. So you're in the driver's seat. But I want to ask you though, it's really important because I noticed this with you in the beginning of your process, and that's you and I would talk a lot, multiple times a day when the beginning of it, because I knew what you were going through and I could relate to you. Because again, I've been here as well. It's very easy at first when you really are feeling it. You're going through something like that at first to constantly Google a lot of things, constantly look at a lot of the negatives online, you're constantly trying to find associations to things, trying to find meaning to everything. What really
Yeah.
helped you to finally kind of like, okay, like, you know what? I don't need to figure everything out. I don't need to figure out every symptom. I don't need to figure out everything. It just is. Like, this is just what it is. It's anxiety, like they said. And where you start to
Right.
kind of just let go a little bit more. Because it's a process. It really is.
It it really is because like as soon as like you feel anything, it could be like a little tickling numbness, your leg could fall asleep, or like any sort of pain or headache or vision change or anything, you want to Google it, and then that just puts you down a rabbit hole. The thing that helped me was like healthy distractions, to the point where you just don't think about doing that anymore. And healthy distractions for me was reading. I read a ton. Um, I game a ton.
Mm.
Exercise. Um, Taking care of this dog, who's the newest addition. And yeah, and that goes on to a different thing that we really don't talk about. Furry friends are great for anxiety.
Oh
And
yeah.
looking back and talking with my therapist and everything, I think the straw that kind of broke the camel's back for my anxiety is that, I don't think I processed grief with my father and my grandmother's passing very well. And then, my dog that was on the show a couple times, he actually did what she's doing now, would just sit
Mm.
with me and just hang out. Ollie, he, got sick, very rare disease, and we had
Mm.
to unfortunately put him to sleep. Um, couldn't open his mouth anymore to eat or drink, and his bark was even muffled. It was awful. But
Mm.
that grief, that I think kind of just pushed me over the edge, and I didn't deal with it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I remember
and
because I remember when you and I talked during that time, because I remember I told you when I first moved over here where I live now back in 2017, so it was almost 6 years ago. My dog, who I had my whole life, passed away that month.
mm,
He was just from old, just natural cause. He was older. He was sick. But you're right. I didn't realize that either. And it's crazy how a lot of what you were going through, I was already there. Same exact everything, like the dog
oh yeah,
going down, not leaving to leave. Like that's why I think I remember that day you called me too. You were at where were you at? You were at Flipside, were you
I
out
was at
there?
a
And
bar. Yeah,
I think you were at Flipside. And you called me, and I remember I just remember talking to you that day, and I remember I just saw a lot of what I was going through, what I went through. It's tough. But the word you brought up there though, because when my dog passed and then I moved, I had changed. It really messed with me for like a year, like for a whole year. I just did not. I was in a bad spot, like really depressed. Just couldn't leave. Didn't leave the
hmm
house at all. And it wasn't until we got our new dog who we have now, Colin. Once we got him, we kind of brought some life back into the house. Because I remember I'd really start to feel it was like on like Sunday afternoons, I'd be sitting watching like football games. And nice fall day, and I was used to the dog sitting there with me. And a lot of
yeah,
times, like my dad. This is when my dad was still at the other place, so he had to work Sunday. So I would watch a lot of games by myself. I'd be home watching the games, get some food, but it was like you could just feel like something was missing. And so once I got that void replaced, and um, but it takes time for anybody. I mean, any type of grief. And I'm glad you
yeah,
brought that word up because that's something I'll figure out in my life. I didn't realize this. I had a lot of grief in my life growing up that I didn't know.
yeah.
Just a lot of
And
people either just died or people that I was close to, like just passed away, or people out of my
yeah,
life. I mean, situations that that's what when I left at 15 years old, when I went to that's what I was going through for years. It's something I still had to work out of even recently when I was going through the program and figuring out is just I was just grieving a lot because I feel like
yeah,
there's things that just grieve.
yeah. And there's no textbook on how to deal with grief or mourning or what have you. And I lost my dad at a very, very young age, and
Mm,
I don't know if I ever processed that. And then my grandmother, who is essentially a second mother to me,
hmm
um, passed um, years back now. And it just kind of compiles on you. And
yeah,
I think you know God, friends, all that helps through, and time really does heal all wounds. um, I think there was a beautiful quote that I saw. I think it was a poem, and it was essentially, grief is um, just love with nowhere to go. You love someone so deeply that their passing just basically bottles that up in you, and that's what becomes grief, because your love has no place to go at that point. And I think that's like a good way to look at it. You can only mourn and grieve something that you love so much, and in a weird way, that's kind of a beautiful thing, which
hmm
is kind of something that I've kind of held on to. Like, it's okay to be sad because I'm sad about this because I love them and they love me so deeply, you
Mm.
know? So
Yeah,
it goes back to reframing your thoughts in
mhm.
like a positive way, and even trying to look at something like that in a more positive light. Like, it's never going to
Mhm.
be positive. Like, your parents passing can't turn into a positive, but the memories of them and, the love you shared with them, you can look back on that positively.
Yeah, and I think too, like I didn't realize that either. Like with grief, I just didn't. That's what a lot of my because grief can go many different ways. A lot of times we think of grief as losing somebody, but it can go many different ways. I mean, grieving. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
um, you could be relationship grieving. Somebody could have been. You see this a lot of times nowadays. I know people like who went through this. It's tough on them where they thought they were with somebody, they thought it was the one, and that person ditched them, or they just didn't work out, and they
Right.
grieve for a long time. I
Yeah.
know people close to me that have gone through that, or um, like for me, for instance, it was I had a lot of things I was looking forward to, and then that happened to me in high school, and then things I can never do again. You get kind of like, damn, what happened? Like, I can't do this. Like, it's you just start grieving. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
but there's also a grieving process with anxiety as well. And you might have
Right.
noticed this because when you're so conditioned to acting as like he said in that video there, when you're so conditioned to responding in fear with so many things and anxiety, and I've noticed this, I'm sure you've noticed it too, starting to now, is the when you start to kind of disconnect from that old identity, like you said, it does feel like a mourning process. I think a lot of people get scared of that, but it's actually a good thing. That's actually a good form
Right.
of grieving is when you start to it's almost like a kind of like a depression. It's like a gray area you get into, but it's also a time
Right.
for you to. That's when you start to rebuild yourself.
Right. I like that analogy. Another one that I actually prescribe it to is like, because I'm a nicotine addict myself. I need my nicotine daily, but I have tried to quit and have quit for months at a time.
Hmm.
The way I would describe not being anxious after being conditioned to be anxious a lot is kind of like nicotine withdrawal.
Yeah.
Like, in a weird way, like, I'll feel okay, but at the same time, it's like I'm looking for it. Where's
Yeah.
that intrusive thought that's going to set me off? Where's that, you know, that feeling? Where's that racing heart? Like, I almost go looking for the thoughts, is what I noticed at the beginning. Luckily, that doesn't happen too
Or
much
you get in like
anymore.
similar situations that used to like freak you out that you don't
Yeah,
really you
yeah,
don't view
kind
them
of.
the
It's like,
same anymore.
right. And that's what I would describe it as, like nicotine withdrawal. It's like when I quit for
Yeah.
months, it was like one of those things when I would have like a beer and then it's like I would taste that phantom cigarette while
Hmm.
drinking that
Yeah.
beer. Um, but yeah, it's just like, it's just kind of like that. Um, and I would give the advice for people who have dealt with this or are currently dealing with it and are getting over it to don't go down the rabbit hole of looking for it once it's gone. Once it's
Right.
gone, just let it be gone.
Totally. Yeah, and that's the same thing with anxiety. Once you start to turn the corner, ain't no looking back. That's kind of that's where I've been in my life is. But I like it though. I love it because the podcast has really helped me with many things. But I think just when I interact with people now and I meet new people, or I run into people that support my show or support what I'm doing online, and the way they tell me how I've like through me how I've helped them or just something. You know what I mean? Just it's like it gives you like confidence, motive, it gives you juice, it gives you like
Right.
and it's just to be able to come back out again now, be around and just back living life now again too, and being around people because it's all about that's what I miss the most for all those years, just being around people and just because I was so used to that. I love always being around people, just interacting with people, talking to people, having fun, like how we talk, we all get together, and so
Right.
um, I missed that for years. But being around people now, though, and just the more I've connected with the Lord, and just and just that's really most important. The more I start to see where I'm heading, and once you start to realize where you're going, and you understand what all you went, once you start to understand that everything you went through is really to make you better and it's for a bigger purpose down the road that we just don't know, but you're becoming somebody that a lot of times we didn't have to think we could be. It's really
Right.
comes really that's where you start to feel really empowering and you start to really take off. And that's kind of where I've been. It's just kind of like, man, I could really start to see that the opportunities I have now that God's blessed you with. He took a negative, God can take a negative in your life but he can also turn it right into a positive just like that.
Right. And that's a beautiful way to put it. And I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Molly, quit it.
Yeah. Mike's dog said it's time to move on. So I appreciate Mike for opening up about that. It's not easy, but you're also a pretty open guy, and it's always good for anybody out there listening. You can always find us online. You can hit one of us up. Feel free to. It's always good to. First step is open up, and to be honest with yourself,
Right.
into it's okay to be vulnerable. You know, no one's going to judge you. Everybody's been there. We've been there. We completely understand. So anybody out there, seek help, and just take the first step to just be vulnerable with somebody, or write it down, or do something. Just pray. Just let it out. You got to start to take that first step. So
Right. I agree.
So, but
Absolutely.
all right. Well, we're going to transition now with some sports action. We're going to start off with Emoni Bates. Mike, I'm real excited. Oh, you got the hater blockers, Mike?
Somewhere.
We got to bring
What
those
did I
back.
do
When we talk sports, we put on the hater blockers because there's just a lot of hate going on right now in the Cleveland sports realm, and we're just sick of it.
Oh, what else is new?
Everybody's hating on the Browns. People said Emoni Bates. Some people say he wouldn't be good. I said he was going to be good, and
there we go. Found him.
But everybody's really. I mean, we really need the hater blockers for the Browns. I've seen us ranked at 26 in some polls, which is
26th best quarterback. I couldn't believe that.
26th best team I've seen too. But but we'll start here with Emoni Bates. Kind of what I expected him. I think Emoni Bates. We didn't really get the cover. We were gonna do a rumble on it. We didn't got to because Mike and I have been busy the last couple weeks. But I think Emoni Bates I think he just went to college too early. I think that's why he fell. I think he went through some growth trials in college. He went to Memphis at 17, but I've followed Emoni Bates since he was in middle school. He was supposed to be the next big prospect on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was in high school. Like I said, just went through some stuff in college, but the prospect has always been there. The talent's always been there, and he's a pro. He's always been you can always see a future pro with star talent or star potential. And so basically what I've seen so far, Mike, I'm not surprised. The dude's been lighting it up. He can really shoot the ball. He can pull up from anywhere. His offensive game is he's already more advanced than most guys at his age offensively. I think I've been impressed defensively as well. He's got real active long arms, hands, blocks for shots. Has a really good feel for the game. I guess kind of what's been your assessment on Emoni Bates so far?
I didn't know too much about him coming out of the draft. I knew a bunch of people that wanted us to draft him, but watching him in the summer league I've been very impressed. He's been, like you said, he's just been on it from like day one, shooting the lights out, pull up. He had a couple steals, a couple blocks. The previous game, I think his stat was like 21-8, 2-2, or something like that. But yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised. Even Kobe Altman said, being honest, that he's still probably going to need some time to develop with the charge. But I mean, if he keeps it up, I wouldn't be surprised if he was starting in place of Okoro, depending on what our lineup's going to be next year.
I think he's going to be the starting three by the end of the year, and I think he'll do really well. I think the only thing with him
is
a
very strong possibility.
I think the only thing with him is just putting on more weight, and then just like defensively figuring out the scheme and kind of, I think. But JB's a really good defensive coach. They'll coach him up. I think him it's just weight and just development. But I think the guy is ready. He can come in right away and be an impact, especially with his scoring, his shooting, his catch and shoot's really good. I mean, the guy he gives them what they need, and what they needed was an overall, just a guy who can really score the ball on offense at the three. I think they got that guy now. They got him for a steal in the draft too.
Right.
And he's 6'10", long arms too, real athletic.
Yeah. I think he could definitely be an impact player long term. And I can't wait to see where the kid's career goes. I really hope that he is what we want him to be, because from what I've seen, I've seen a bunch of exciting tape. He said that getting drafted by the Cavs has reignited his love for basketball. That could just be lip service, but it's great to hear how excited he was to join the team, and I'm all for
I think it has
producing
though.
young talent.
I think you could tell he has a different because I follow. Like I said, I've been following him for a while, and you could definitely see that with him. I think you can see a guy who um definitely is reignited, but also I just think his college he went through a lot of things in college. I think Memphis didn't go how it was supposed. A lot of people thought it would go. You hear that as a young kid. He's had a lot of pressure on him. He's been a phenom since he was 12 years old, I think. So that's a lot of pressure. That's not normal for most 12-year
Yeah,
olds. But also, I think
and
he's from Detroit.
here,
He's from the Michigan area as well, so he's not too far from home either. So that's probably a good.
oh, okay. So he probably was a Cavs fan because no one wanted to root for the Pistons.
Maybe. Yeah, I probably
But
was a LeBron fan. I know he's a Kevin Durant fan. That's who kind of a lot of people compared him to when he was coming up was KD because he's
oh,
long
really?
arms. I mean, he kind of reminds me more of like he does shoot. You could see the shooting like Durant off the dribble, the catch and shoot. To me, I think his body type's more of like a Brandon Ingram, but
I was about to say I would say Brandon Ingram's a pretty good comp in here. If he turns into Brandon Ingram, I'm
which
all
is
for
great.
it.
Yeah, which is great.
Um,
He has the talent. The guy has the raw talent to be as good as he wants to be, for sure.
right. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where the kid goes, and like you called it, I mean, you were clamoring for him, um,
I
from the
was.
beginning. And here, I was kind of laissez-faire because I'm like, we got it's a second round pick. It's the NBA. Second round picks are nothing. Like,
I remember I told you that
um,
day. I called you. You're like, who do you think? I'm like, Emoni Bates. Because I study all this. I'm like, Mike Emoni Bates. If he's there, you're going to take him.
right.
And they took him. I'm
Meanwhile, the
glad they
football
did.
draft, I got right a lot too. I said Cedric Tillman. I said Isaiah McGuire. I called
Yeah.
DeJuan Jones. I called Siaki Ika.
I
DTR.
called a couple. We did pretty good on the draft this year.
We
We
did.
went back. We went back, did our analysis. We nailed a lot of them. Some things went a little wild card, but there were some wild cards in that first round. But
Oh yeah.
before we could, but we'll finish up on the Cavs though. They also signed a couple shooters off the bench as well. I think was it Max Strus from Miami. Just kind of reminds me like a Mike Miller knockdown shooter. Played a big role for them this year. And then also, what's his Georges
M-
Niang is
Minivan. George Niang.
Minivan. George Niang, that's his name. Minivan is his nickname. I like him. 6'9". He used to really light us up too. We played against the Sixers. I like him. He's a good role player. I like his size too. What are your thoughts there on the sign as well for the Cavs?
Struess, I think, was a little bit of an overpay, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
we'll we'll kind of see. Um, he's got similar stat line to Rui Hachimura, who I like. I think Rui Hachimura is just a little bit better, but I mean, here's hoping Max Strus can contribute. I love the George Niang signing. I thought that was a
yeah.
super smart signing. Just great wing that can shoot and defend. Perfect 3-and-D. And like here, it's the modern NBA. You got to pay for shooting, and Max Strus and George Niang can both shoot. So I get it. I get why we spent the money where we did and how much we had to spend for those players.
Because that was the problem. You could really see that in the playoffs. Not to cut you off, but
Oh
they
yeah,
didn't. They have the scoring, the one-on-one scoring. They just add another one in the draft too, but they have post
but like
scoring
if
and low.
you're
They don't have the floor spacing though.
right, and if you're
Our guys kept
superstar,
is driving the double teams constantly. Yeah,
right,
just
and if he's having a cold night on three, like who else is going to put those up? And because
yeah.
Darius Garland, he's a good 3-point shooter, but like that's not really where he excels in his game. So like if Donovan Mitchell's not knocking him down, you need somebody to.
Mm.
And who's that going to be? Now we have two options that can do that, possibly three with Emoni Bates if he starts coming off the bench. But yeah, no, I like the additions with the Cavs.
And they brought back.
I
They also brought in Ty Jerome, backup point. I don't know if Rubio might be the backup point guard if I'm not mistaken, right? I
Yeah,
know last year he
I
was
think
coming off the
Rubio's done.
injuries, so he's a little. But they did bring in Ty Jerome. I
Yeah, I
do
don't
like
mind
what they.
Ty Jerome.
I like. Here's why I like the Bates signing too. All this is because if Bates moves in the starting lineup, like I think, I like a Coro, the bench with a Coro minivan, um, and we re-signed Karis LeVert as well, who I think is a really good 6 man. If Karis can, because Karis can score the ball, Karis can
Mm.
do a lot of things. I like Karis off the bench. I think
Oh,
you
I
add a
love
lot
Karis
more.
off the bench. I think.
Yeah, I think they added a lot more. They add some more depth naturally by drafting Bates at the bench, which they
Mm-hmm.
needed because their bench was pretty weak last year. And I think
It was.
they still need another big, in my opinion, another big, and they really got to make sure that maybe another guard, maybe or another wing. But I think they need another big as well. We'll see what happens. They got some nice guys on this G League, on this, I'll say G League, on the Summer League team as well. They got some other guys playing well, so there might be some guys that come up. I think Cooper Kid's really good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Sam Merrill is another shooter. I like Sam Merrill. He can really shoot the
Yeah, we
ball really
called him
well.
up. We called him up last year. He was just kind of sitting on the bench, and he played like garbage time minutes. But Sam Merrill is an interesting prospect if he continues to develop. Can actually like serve a role
Mhm.
on the team.
I think
Um,
that's where they got to take their next steps. I think, well, you look at a lot of these teams like Denver, even the Lakers. A lot of these teams like they develop out of the system. Like Austin Reeves was like a late round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Denver, a lot of their
he
guys
was.
were not. Yeah, Denver, a lot of their. I mean, it's all about development. So can a guy like Isaiah Mobley take steps? Can a guy like the
Oh
kid
my
we
God, I
drafted,
would love that.
the
If
center,
Isaiah Mobley took steps.
the center we drafted last year? I can't pronounce his name, but he's in the G League
Oh
team.
yeah, I
Little
know who you're
athletic
talking.
guy, or hell, even Pete Nance, Larry Nance's brother, who I watched Pete in high school. I think Pete and I were around the same age. He went to Revere. Went to Northwestern and played ball, but he's on the team too. Played, he actually had 9 points yesterday. Played pretty good. But
Hmm.
they gotta get some of these guys to kind of step up. Even maybe the other kid they drafted stash, Luke Tavers, whatever his name is, or
Yeah,
somebody. They got to get some of these guys to step up. Someone's got to. I mean, I think I really like the Cooper kid though, the guard. He looked really good in the first couple games.
yeah,
But
yeah. I'm excited. I'm just really excited for Emoni Bates.
I am too.
Basketball season can wait though, baby, because we're approaching football season. We're
I will say
24
though,
days out, ladies
no
and
matter what
gentlemen.
happens with Donovan Mitchell, I know it's been a lot of talk this offseason for some reason. As long as
He's
we got,
denied those
as long as
claims.
well, yeah, and I don't know if you really want to go to. Most players actually don't actually want to go to New York. That's a whole other thing though. But go to
Yeah, I
Reese's
don't even want to
podcast
give
talk about
any.
that.
I don't even want to give any wood to that
Plus the
fire.
new CBA too kind of negates a lot of these player, but we'll see what happens. But I will say though, when you got Garland, Mobley, and Bates for the future, I like that. We got a nice big three developing here in Cleveland.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, you do the trend. I know you're most excited about. Go ahead and do the transition, Mike.
we're 24 days away from the Hall of Fame game. 3 days away from training camp start, baby. Football is officially back, and I am so excited. I'm turning into Macho Man. I'm the cream, the crop. I feel so good that it's football season again. It's rolling around. It's so close, and the Browns are coming for all of you reporters' throats. I'm so sick of the hate. I'm so sick of the discourse. I'm sick of our own reporters because there's nothing to talk about. It's early July. Training camp's around the corner, so they're making all these narratives. I saw G. Bush, who I love, by the way. I love
Love
the
G.
Cleveland
Bush.
Sports Show. I love G. Bush. I'm
I like
not
G. Go
hating on
check
G.
out
Bush.
G. Bush's personal YouTube channel too. Great content. We really
Oh
dive
yeah,
deep
the
into. He's on
barbershop.
Patreon too. Yeah, love G. Bush's show.
Oh, I love G. Bush. Nothing against the man. I think he's one of the best content creators in
One of the
Cleveland.
realest reporters in Cleveland that actually played ball too. He played college ball, so he knows what
Yeah,
the
he
hell he's
did.
talking about. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, all the respect to G. Bush, but G. Bush said something today, and they posted it on Twitter, and I have to respond to it because
I didn't see this.
he goes, they're arguing about the receiver room, and they go, well, the Browns really, we need to add another receiver because the Browns, they don't have a backup plan if Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore go down. And I go, okay, what team does? What does Cincinnati become if Jamar Chase and T. Higgins get hurt at the same time?
Tyler
What kind of
Boyd,
I just don't understand that thought process. What team, if their number one and number two receivers get hurt, what happens to them? The Eagles. What if AJ Brown and Devontae Smith get hurt? What are they? The Dolphins. What if Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle get hurt? What are they? Like, there's no team that has 4 to 5 star wide receivers. No team needs that. You need 2 really, really good receivers and then The rest can be like, good workhorses. And to kind of respond to what he was saying about that is if knock on wood, if Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore go down, I think we have some pretty good depth outside of that with,
really young.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, Cedric Tillman, Marquise Goodwin, David Bell. Like, I think depth-wise, we're fine at receiver. And I just wanted to kind of put that to bed because that was bothering me all day today after he said that. And I just needed to talk about it because I thought it was a little confounded, a little ridiculous. That
I'm looking at the depth chart. I wrote it down. You got Coop, Moore, DPJ, Bell, Tillman, Godwin, and Grant, who will be more a special teamer. So
is it Godwin or Goodwin? Do I keep saying it wrong?
I think it's Goodwin. I don't know. Marquise Goodwin. Marquise Godwin. I don't. Who's looked really good with Deshaun, by the way. But yeah. I know what G. Bush is saying because G. Bush has been complaining all off season. I actually agree with him. He thought actually that the wide receiver was the most important need. And I said the D line.
And I gave we addressed it very well.
I gave a slight edge to the D line, but I completely understood what he was talking about because I agree. We
got to put up points.
We need receivers bad. Our receivers last year were horrible.
But
so I agree. But I think
we added to it exponentially. We added 3 players that we're going to keep. It's not like we did nothing. We traded for Elijah Moore, signed Marquise Goodwin, drafted Cedric Tillman.
I like the Goodwin signing. I like the veteran, but he's also got speed on him still. And him,
I like Watson. I love the Elijah Moore
Watson
trade.
Have really, they brought in speed. They brought in size. I like Cedric Tillman. I think he'll be a good player. I still think Bell will be a good player if he just gets the right role.
I do too.
I just don't think he got a lot of. It's just last year was such a unique year. It was a lot of uniqueness to it. There was a lot of, a lot of outside things. Just I don't think they really went all in last year. To be honest with you. Just
Can
because
you
I
blame
think once the suspension got switched from originally 6 games to 12, I think they kind of just threw it out the window and just said, "Well, we'll just see how where it goes." But yeah, I mean, I agree. If a team's top 2 receivers goes out, I mean, it's usually not good for anybody. So, but I mean, that's a hypothetical. And who knows? There's always you just never know who's out there in the middle of the season. Somebody could get cut. Somebody could be available for trade for a nice contract, 1-year deal. Anything can happen. There's always possibility, but I think they should always stick to who they are, though. They got Nick Chubb. You're running the ball first. I think you are going to see more of a spread this year, which I like, but they're a run-first team, so stick to that. You know what I mean?
I think we're going to see that kind of drastically shift. I don't think Nick Chubb's carries are going to go down. I think they actually might go up because if you look at the normal bell cow back carries for like pass first offenses, they all are around 18, 19 carries. And Chubb, I think, averaged 14 or 15 last year. So I think you're going to see his carries increase, but I don't think that's necessarily going to mean we're going to be a run first offense anymore because we were splitting carries and there would be like 25 or 26 run plays in any given game. And I don't think we're going to see that anymore. I think we're going to see considerably more passing plays. And when you invest in the wide receiver room like we have, and when you invest in the quarterback position like we have, I expect that. I expect you to tailor the offense to Deshaun Watson and not Nick Chubb because Deshaun Watson is probably going to be your quarterback for 10 years, hopefully. So obviously, you want to tailor your offense around him. Nick Chubb, probably not going to be here in 10 years.
No. Well, and not only that, too, I think Kareem Hunt not here anymore. I think Chubb maybe gets a little more carries, take the load off the young kid, Jerome Ford, who I like. I think Jerome Ford would be good. But, I think you will see more of a spread offense. They've even said it. I think you're going to see a lot more trick plays, or not say trick plays, but just more like creativity.
But they were doing something in minicamp.
I think you're going to see a lot of David Njoku action this year. A lot of high targets for him, high receptions, a lot of red zone targets.
I really hope David Njoku becomes a great red zone threat because he, before he got hurt, was rolling, dude, and he looked great. And here, if David Njoku gets 700-800 yards this season, that's a dub. I think he had 600 yards last season with 4 or 5 touchdowns, something like that, that's good for a tight end, but we want him to be a great tight end.
Right.
So I'm excited to see what David does this season. But there's this one play, man, that they were running in minicamp. I need to talk about it, and I think we're going to see a lot of it. Is Elijah Moore in the backfield in pistol with Deshaun Watson in pistol, and then them running an option play out of it. I don't think we're going to be using him as a Debo Samuel by any means, but basically Elijah Moore runs like this backside curl out of the backfield, which allows like a more dynamic style of a check down if need be. It's almost like a screen, but it's a read option play that's so good. And I love it, especially when you're running it with Marquise Goodwin, who's fast, and Elijah Moore, who's very fast at the same time. Like, there's so many different things that the Browns can do now with the amount of variety at the receiver position. And, I don't think Cedric Tillman's not going to necessarily get a ton of plays this year. I think we're going to try and like milk Donovan Peoples-Jones, for lack of a better term, as much as we can. I don't see a re-sign in his future, but yeah, dude, I'm so excited about the Browns.
I think too, drafting Tillman put the writing on the wall with that. To be honest with you,
right?
But no, I agree. I think too. I'm excited to see what the defense looks like with Schwartz. I think there's already been an attitude change. You can already see a culture shift. I think the defense this year could be top 10. Just because I really believe in Schwartz that much. It's not a
top
talent
15.
issue.
I'm good. I don't need us to be top 10. But
that D line is so good now with Zadarius Smith and Garrett on the other side. You got run stuffers up the middle. They got a lot of size. I think bringing back Anthony Walker, which I like. I think JOK will bounce back in this different scheme. I think the back end's deep. You got Newsome. You got Emerson, I'm really high on. You got Ward.
I love Emerson's game.
Juan Thornhill. You got a championship experience now. I still like Delpit in this.
And Rodney McLeod.
Yeah, Rodney McLeod. They brought a lot of good veterans, which I really like. I'm really excited to see what this looks like with Schwartz now. I think the defense, could be top 10 this year. Just go with the talent and then with him running the show.
I think the talent's there to do so. I just think, I don't know, it's like the ghost of Joe Woods haunting me. Like, I don't think we need to be top 10 to necessarily go to the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl. Because, I mean, look at the Bengals. They've never been a top 10 defense. They've been top 15, sometimes 17, I think, last year when they went to the AFC Championship. And really, that's all you need. I think we'll be better. But I'm saying, like, I'm not going to be upset because I think we can achieve our goals as a team as long as our offense is as good as I think it's going to be. With the defense doesn't need to be top 10, top 5 quality. Now, I think it's possible, especially with the talent what we had. Jim Schwartz has said that he's going to be sending 5 guys a lot more, which is an interesting thought. Like, I wonder what that personnel grouping is going to kind of look like. If he means he's going to be putting one of our linebackers' hands in the dirt, or throwing another D tackle out there, so they play like a 3-1-0 like wide scheme. But like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I know basically he said that it's going to be pretty simple. Like, best corner covers best receiver, so on and so forth. It's going to be very matchup based, which I like. So we might see a lot of shifting, like, because a lot of number 1 receivers line up in the slot now. You might see Denzel Ward in the slot a little bit more. You might see, that'll give like versatility, because I still think Greg Newsome is a very, very good outside corner. I think Martin Emerson is very, very good outside corner.
I would say there's 3 guys I'm really going to be keeping an eye on. And it's Martin Emerson's leaps. Can he take the second-year leap, or is it going to be a sophomore slump? JOK, can he bounce back? Because last year wasn't his best year. I think he had a lot of he had a lot of things happen in his life too. I think
his brother passed away, and
and I'm curious to see how Grant Delpit looks at the system as well. I think those are the 3 guys I'm really looking at. I'm not actually, to be honest with you, out of those 3, I'm most comfortable with Emerson. I trust that. I like Emerson. I like what I saw last year as a rookie, especially how he took on Mike Evans and Brady like that. I think I'm actually most confident in Emerson. I think I'm really looking at JOK. To me is still the most important piece that needs to really shine in this. Like, really, you need to see like that bounce back. You know what I mean?
Right.
I still think, I still think he's the most important piece.
My most my player to watch, I guess you could say, is it's not really a player. It's just the defensive tackle room. Like, are the additions we made going to be enough to supplement the failings of last year? Because anybody could run all over us. Is Dalvin Tomlinson, Siaki Ika, Maurice Horst, Tristan Hill going to be enough to supplement the room that was obviously it was the worst defensive tackle room in the league last year? So I'm hoping that that is indeed a fact, and that this year we're going to see just a huge shift from that room. I don't need a bunch of sacks from that room, but if they just play at an average NFL level, I'll be happy. So I'm going to pick like my rookie that I'm most excited to watch, Siaki Ika. And the player that I'm excited to see, like, I guess, year two kind of jump, I would agree Martin Emerson, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what David Bell's role is actually going to be in the offense, because, he didn't have a bad year per se last year. He didn't get a ton of targets. And, I feel like he's been kind of forgotten. Like, nobody's really talking about him, and they're talking about him like he could be cut. He's not getting cut. So I really am intrigued to see what the Browns do with him, if anything, what kind of anything they're going to run. Because he does have that like Jarvis Landry phenotype of like just really good hands. Seeing if maybe he's going to be in some red zone groupings. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited for this year.
There's one guy though I think that has everybody's gonna be putting a scope on, and that's Jedrick Wills. This is a big year for Jed Wills. He's got to play well, I think, to really solidify that. Really, you're looking for the franchise left tackle is what you're looking for. And so I know he's kind of had an up and down career for a lot of people. At times he's looked really good. At times he's looked he got injured. I think the injury affected him as well. And then there's times where you're kind of like, for some people. There's been a lot of criticism his way. What's your thoughts on Jed, and just what do you think he really solidifies himself this year?
See, I don't really prescribe to the Jed hate. I don't really see that. Like, because he's not a great run blocker, but in pass pro, he's always been decent. And that's what he was drafted to be, was an immediate impact. Like, coming out of college, like, people didn't say that Jed was going to be like the second coming of Joe Thomas. People were saying like he's the most NFL ready, and he was plug and play. He's kind of, he's gotten a little bit better here and there. He's declined here and there, but for the most part, he's just been good. He's not great. He's not bad. He's just middle of the pack. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're the 17th best left tackle, like, I don't think you need to like have one of the top 5 O-line in every single spot on your front 5. I don't think he works his way into a second contract. And if he does, it's probably short term for not a lot of money. Because I don't think DeJuan Jones was an indictment on Jed as much as it was on Jack. Because we might have signed Jack for another 4 years, but really it's a 2-year deal with team options. So after this year, we can pretty much.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say we could pretty much walk away from Jack's contract after this year if we want to.
I was going to say,
and
if there's one guy in this whole draft that I think has the highest upside from that our draftees, and really just the whole draft in general, is DeJuan Jones. If DeJuan Jones can trim down the weight, and he'd be an all pro. There's no reason for that guy. Everybody's saying it too. They're like, if this guy just drops the weight and just he's with Bill Callahan, he gets everything down, he should be an all pro one day. He's that good.
Yeah, and I think it's there. And DeJuan Jones is lucky in that he's not going to be asked to start this year. He might not even be asked to start next year, because we have realistically Jack and Jed for this year and next. My thought process has always been DeJuan Jones is probably going to be our starting right tackle eventually. our left tackle, I think, is probably going to be when our first round picks finally come back, is probably going to be that draft, is when we pick a left tackle again. I don't think we're going to see any personnel change at those positions unless like a drastic injury happens to Jack and Dwan Jones just blows everyone away and they can walk away from him after this year. I really don't think – I think Jed has a lot to prove, but I think even if he does, I don't think the money is going to be there per se to sign him long term. And I don't think the body of work that he's put out there so far is indicative of a top of the league, first round left tackle contract. And because we drafted him, I think, with the 10th or 11th pick in that year's draft, the 2019 draft. So, nothing against Jed. I like him, but like I really do think like my crystal ball says that he's probably going to be the left tackle for the next 2 years.
Right.
And then we're probably going to draft a left tackle in the first round when we got our first round picks back after this next upcoming draft. And then we're just going to roll. That offensive line is going to go through a little bit of a shift in the next couple of years. Joel, I don't know how long he's got. Wyatt, this might be his last year here. Center is tied down for the foreseeable future. You might have your future right tackle, but as far as left tackle, left guard, right guard, the O-line's going to look pretty different, I think, in these next coming years. Luckily, I don't think anytime soon, but after this year, I wouldn't be surprised we see some movement somewhere. But I don't think it's at the tackle position.
All right. Well, I got to ask you real quick, though. I want to get to Deshaun real quick, and we'll wrap up. But I want to ask you, I just thought of something. Do you think Siaki Ika, does he start at some point this year? Who is this? You got. Okay, I don't know what happened, guys. Something happened with the internet there. That was weird. So the internet just crashed for a second. But I'm back. We'll see if I get Mike back up here.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know. That just went out for everybody. It looks like
Sunspot.
Well, we're still here, guys. You got a little minute break there. Thankfully we came back. But yeah, I'll ask you real quick though. Do you think Siaki Ika? Do you think he starts at some point? I got Darius, Miles, and Dalvin. Who's the other D-tackle?
Everything I'm hearing from at least minicamp is they're really high on him, and they like everything he's doing. And that was a Jim Schwartz pick. They picked him because Schwartz loved the kid. So, and he's really, Dalvin, people assumed that he would be the run stuffing kind of 1-0 tech, and that's just not the case. Dalvin and Minnesota and New York, for that matter, lined up at 3 tech more often than not, and I really do think that's where they're going to line him up. So who else do you start at 1 tech other than Siaki? Maybe you can move Mo Hurst into 3 a little bit here and there. Maybe Alex Wright moves inside more like we saw at the end of last year. Maybe Perrion Winfrey still does something, but I'm kind of just done talking about him. I think it's a possibility. It's just a matter of can the dude be a 3-down guy? Does he have that kind of motor? He's super athletic for his size, and he moves really quickly. The biggest red flags were his arm length, and the worry of he's big dude. Can he shut it down? Again, he do more than be more than a 2-down guy. So
yeah, it's gonna be
it's a possibility, but I don't know. Maybe he's a hidden gem Vita Vea prototype where no matter the size or what, he can still just go out there and go. But we'll see. I'm excited to see.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to
I
ask you. I want to shift
hear
it
the
to Sean
question.
real quick. I want to shift it to
Let's
Sean
do it.
before we finish up because I think that's the biggest key here, obviously, for everybody. It's the biggest headline.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of reason why I think a lot of people are not high on the Browns because they just don't really. They're not high on
They don't
Stefanski, or
want
they don't like Deshaun, or they're not high on Deshaun. Um, I think Deshaun will bounce back, play pretty well this year. I think the system, I think the way he's working with Stefanski, I think the help they brought in, I think he'll do really well. He doesn't have to start off, lighten up everything. I think he can just come in and ease his way back in. I think he's finally had a normal off season. The Browns have had a normal off season for once in a long time, and so I think he'll do really well. I expect him to be. I think he can get around 35 touchdowns this year. I'd be really happy with that. I think they would be too. And so you're looking for a good high completion percentage as well, efficiency. What's your outlook on Deshaun, and what do you expect to see from him early on, and just your expectations for him?
Yeah. So my biggest expectation for Deshaun is probably. I mean, obviously, be the best quarterback that Cleveland's ever seen. Like that's. I mean, that seems like a lofty expectation, but like he's being paid to be that. So obviously, I want to see Deshaun go back to what we saw in Houston, which was a top 5 quarterback, and I think he has that talent. I think now he's got the personnel around him in order to do that. It's still the best O-line he's ever played with, still the best running game he's ever played with. I think that this is, he's on the cusp of something great, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But yeah, I think a good line would be, 4,000 yards, 34 touchdowns, like 8 picks. That's what I want to see from Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I agree, and I think too. I think I like what I've seen with him, his interactions with the guys this offseason. They're in Miami the last couple of days, training together. You've seen a lot of the skilled players with him training together all offseason. I think that's a really good sign that there's a lot of chemistry being built. It just seems to be a lot more cohesion that we've never really seen in our years watching the Browns. So really looking forward to it. I know you're excited. I'm excited. I think, like I said, I think Sean will do fine. And I'm curious to see too how they use Elijah Moore in that offense, like you said earlier, with him. I think you've seen him in the backfield a lot. I'm really curious to see a lot of because there's a lot of things you can do with Deshaun. He's very versatile. He's not a one-dimensional type quarterback. He can sit in the pocket and throw. He can go on the run. He can go out of the pocket. He can run the ball. He can do all kinds of things with him. And so, yeah, I hope. I think, as we all hope he does well. I think he'll do well. I think he's kind of blocked out a lot of the outside noise now. You can see he seems to be doing a lot better with that, or just I don't say better, but just like doesn't seem to really affect him that much, is what it seems. So,
Right.
But honestly, we don't know what's really going on. But is there any of that bother? Are you worried about any of that this year? Do you think anything else or something could,
outside of an injury? I think we're on. I think we're going to be fine. I think Deshaun's going to be fine. I think it's going to be really, like I said, really exciting to see. And so does Watson. Watson also thinks that Deshaun Watson is gonna break it up.
Yeah, I guess so. Watson's excited. So, but all right, Mike. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. You want to go ahead and plug your stuff real quick? You want to plug anything?
No plugs. Go Browns.
No plug. Go Browns. All
Go
right.
Browns.
Go Browns. All right.
Look at that.
Look at that. But,
look at that.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Just look at it.
I appreciate you having me as always.
Oh, wait. You got a book of the week?
Not this week.
Damn.
This week I've been reading comic books.
Now. All right. Mike's back. All right. Well, you've been busy, so
Yeah.
It's
next week, I promise.
No, you're good. But all right, Mike. I appreciate you coming on. We'll see you in the next one, brother.
See you in the next one, bro.
All right, you guys. I want to thank you guys for coming. And I don't know what I'm saying. Thank you guys for coming on today. I want to thank Mike for coming on today. That's what I meant to say. I don't know what I'm saying there for a second, guys. I was looking at my notes, but I want to thank Mike for coming on today. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And yeah, sorry about the internet connection there at the end. I don't know what happened. Just kind of cut out there for a second. But yeah, thanks to Mike for coming on today. Thank you guys for tuning in. That's what I meant to say. And yeah, love all you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. Gone.